So a little bit of orientation on the application then. We can go to settings, and obviously themes. We can change the color, like how dark the borders are and everything. Window, there should be workspaces here. And this is like presets for the orientation and the size of all of these Dockers on the side. So if I change it to minimal, you can see that now we have a new set of Dockers around everything. I'll show you what a Docker is first. So if we go here to settings, Dockers, it's just kind of like here I can turn on the layer Docker, which we need a lot, right? This is over here, the layer Docker, and I can pull it around, resize it, whatever, and I can put it over here, for example. It's very customizable. You can have it whatever size you want. I personally really love maximizing the canvas space so I can feel more engaged. So this is what my Clip Studio looks like, right? There's absolutely no Dockers. And what I do instead is, because I know already what Dockers I specifically want, I have them bound to my keyboard. So I know that like Z pulls up a giant, interactable color wheel. And then the next button, X, is a giant, window for my layers. And then I have the toolbox here. And then each individual brush, a window to edit the brush, color palette, and color history. So that's like my entire bottom row of, let's make this bigger. Like Z, X, C, V, B, N, M. All of that row. And then we have, like spacebar over here. So these are all of my Dockers over here. So that I don't have to have like everything like crowding my drawing. So I can actually just, draw in peace. And I tried to emulate that on Krita and it did not work. So this is the default view. If we go back to Windows, Workspaces, default is kind of what it looks like. And we have like a tiny little triangle color wheel, layers over here, brushes, and then the toolbox, right? In Workspaces, I made a custom one, which is this one. So this is the closest I could get it to look to my setup on Clip Studio. And as you can see, there are no Dockers here. And again, I press, Z for a type of color wheel, I guess, good enough for me. I have my toolbox, color palette, and layers, because those I couldn't separate, which is fine. I guess it still looks very nice and spacious.
Yeah. The default one is pretty good too.
It's very good.
The default workspace.
I'm doing this more so to grab your attention. It's like, I want to do the brushes, and this is where you should look, right? Whereas like if it's back on the workspaces here, like this is animation. It's like, all right, where should I be looking exactly? Big vector.
It's insane that you thought about that. It's very cool.
All right. So the most important Docker that you COC must have is the layer Docker. This is where all of our layer information is going to sit. And I think we'll go like from left to right and describe kind of what sort of buttons you can press. Starting with the beginning, I guess we can go draw whatever thing here. The eyeball, of course, hides the layer. The checkbox is showing you what is currently selected. This is useful for grouping things. So if I add a new layer, which would be the plus button down here, but I also have, a keybind for that. Why isn't my undo working? Oh, the scuff.
Control Z.
Yeah, it's not that anymore. It's okay. So, all right, just imagine that everything grouped nicely and that I didn't have to do what I just did. But you see, we have 2 paint layers and a group layer. And again, anything that's inside a group, I can just press this eyeball, and of course it hides the layers underneath, right?
How do you make a group?
Same thing here. It would be maybe this plus button here. So the plus button is to add a new layer. And then there's this tiny little drop down right here. It says add group layer. And I have add paint layer to the number 5, and I have add group layer to the number 7. And I just press those. And then what I noticed is that when I make a new layer here, and then I make a new group here, by default, this new layer that I just spawned in, isn't underneath my group. So I had to manually drag it and drop it. So now it is underneath that group tree. Let's see if I make another layer. If you create more layers within the group, it'll stay there, which is very healthy. Okay. Next up is we have this checker box right here. Checker boxes historically signifies transparency. And you notice this one's like slightly smaller. That's because this is like showing you just where I had drawn this thing. So it's got the aspect ratio of this drawing. And I can actually control click. So holding control and pressing on this layer does a selection, which is very helpful actually. And we use that quite a lot when we want to, change the color of everything on this layer. There's other ways of doing it, but we'll get into why we would use the selection layer over like transparency masks. Okay, next in line, we have the name of the paint layer. So I could just call this base, sure. And we can lock it. So now I can't, every time I draw here, it's just got a cancel mark on it. I can't do anything here. You can unlock it again. And if I wasn't selected, I could keep on drawing. My brush is scuffed. Anyways. All right, so now we're going to get into the topic of clipping. I think this one, the last one, is easier to understand. If I have this transparency lock enabled, so like I told you, if I click on this, it's only going to select what's being drawn on, and I can't like draw out of the box. So if I choose a red here, you see that it's only drawing where I've selected inside the marching ants. Hey, my undo does work. All right, so then if I deselect and have nothing enabled, again, nothing's clipping. But then if I have this enabled, it does effectively the same thing as the marching ants that I just showed you, as like control clicking on the lines. It's just a more convenient way of doing it. So now you can see I can like potentially recolorize this base and have it be whatever color I want. Which I did show you in Clip Studio as well. So if we go here, I'll just show you the exact same thing. Here we have the base, whatever. Oh boy, the lag. Add a new layer, or I guess like the same thing. Lock transparent pixels, and it's got that same like lock transparency icon as Krita. It's just in a different place. And you'll notice it stays within the shape. And again, this was helpful when I was explaining shadows, because now we can just easily stay in within the lines. Another way of doing that, again, is I can control click on the icon here, and it does the same thing effectively, because it's got the marching ants again. And then I get black and does the same thing. What would be the benefits to this marching ants method? Marching ants is just what I'm calling whatever this selection thing is. Because it's selected, I can like hide this. You can see that it's just the marching ants on its own. And I can just choose a different layer up here and just go back to coloring in. And it'll still preserve that shape. So that's another use case of clipping layers, I guess. And then the third way of doing the exact same operation is, let's go back to Krita. Let's make this a bit bigger so we can see more. All right, so we have this big base here. We talked about control clicking creates these marching ants so that we could technically, select a black here. And this is a completely different layer, but I can still clip like that. That's what I showed you in Clip Studio. Turn it back on. We don't need the marching ants. Another way was the transparency lock. There we go. It's also clipped. But there's another way, which is alpha locking, which is this A right here. This A signifies that if I have a second layer up here, it's only going to respect the alpha, quote unquote, of this base. Effectively, it's clipping to the layer below. So as you can see, this is my base layer here. And it's going to do the exact same thing where if I'm painting on this paint layer 2, and I have this dark red selected, and I have the alpha disabled, it's going to be like a normal paint layer. But if I enable the alpha lock, bang, now all of a sudden, it's clipping to the base here. So that's another way of doing the exact same thing that I'm talking about. But why do we have like 5 different ways of doing the exact same operation? It's so we can create shadows and highlights in a non-destructive manner. Because imagine I just had, we're just going to go over here, create a new layer, and it's not even going to be in a group. If I just had like, my skin here, and then I wanted to draw my highlights, on top, and then the shadows over here. I'm like, oh, now I want to change. I want to change the gradient between whatever, this shadow and this one, but now I need, and it's just a mess. Like everything's on the same layer. I can't go back and edit my highlights. I can't edit my shadows. But here, supposing this is the red is our base and the brown is my shadow shape, I can then enable the alpha lock so it sticks to the red, and then the transparency mask here, so now I can make a gradient within the shadow, which according to the last VOD was very important to convincing shadows. So whatever, I'm going to choose something with like a half opacity, like an airbrush, that'll do well. And go back to this red, whatever. And you can see now I can add this gradient to my shadow by just having this transparency mask. I didn't even need to do that. I could just have my base, my shadow layer, and then I could just create another layer. And now I want this new layer to have that gradient information, but only clip to this layer. How are we going to do that? Because if I just do the same alpha thing again, it's not going to respect this one. It's only going to respect the base because it's the only one without that alpha symbol enabled. So it'll just effectively, you can see that it's applying to everything. But I just want it to clip to the shadow like I showed you before. So that's where groups come into play again. So we're going to undo that. So let's clean up my layers just a little bit more. Okay, so this is our background. There you go. Now you can see the transparency behind it. That's just that flat color, and you can tell it's locked. We have our base again, and then we have our hypothetical shadow shape, and this gradient that I want to apply over my hypothetical shadow shape, and it's all in this big Papa group. We're going to call this Papa G. Hell yeah. So we got base. This is going to represent our shadows. Sure. And this is going to be called a gradient. Nice. Perfect. So we're going to create another group within this group by pressing, in my case, the create group button. But otherwise, again, it's just right here. If you press this little drop down, it applied to. There we go. So I'm going to drag my gradient layer inside this group like that. So now it's there. So now I can do, I'm going to actually need both of them now that I think of it. So I'm going to take my shadows here and put both of them in this bigger group, because now the idea is I can just have this have the alpha lock. This doesn't need to be alpha locked anymore. And then my gradient can have the alpha lock. So what's happening? Anything that I draw on this layer is going to respect the opacity of this one. And then anything within this group is going to be respecting the base. So as you can see, it's doing exactly what I was talking about. You can tell if I do that. All right, so I disabled everything, right? We're just going to run through the layers one last time. So ignoring everything, I have the background. I'm turning on the Papa group so we can see just the base. And I'm going to turn on this group here. I had my shadow shape. And, before I had the alpha lock here, but I'm going to apply the alpha lock to this not the Papa group, the daughter group. So that everything within this group here is going to respect the alpha of the base. The reason I did that is now my shadow doesn't need that alpha symbol, so I can create a new layer that will respect the shadow layer. Were you guys able to understand that? It's only going to get easier from here, I promise.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay. I really hope I didn't lose you there. Yeah, we're going to do more practical examples with like actual rendering anime, because this is just a mess. So that's gone, forgotten forever. You can tell if I go back to this super messy document here. I was working with Tobster in like how I would illustrate this, and this is the exact same thing here. So this is the user interface of the layers here, right? This symbol represents the base layer, and you can see this is a folder, and this red symbol means that it's clipping to below. And you'll notice that's exactly what Clip Studio does here. So yeah, we don't need these two. I'm going to create a new layer like 5. There we go. Black base. Add a new layer. Make it a folder like this. And in Clip Studio, it's this button. It's not alpha lock anymore. It's just a red line. And now anything within that red line is going to respect the base here. One more time in Krita. Oh, the mess. There we go. So same thing. Let's get... How do I change brushes? Good enough. This is my base again. As you can see, create a new layer, create a clipping group, put the new layer in the group, alpha lock the group. Because then anything that I paint inside the group hypothetically should have stuck. Oh, and this is where I got really confused. Why isn't it working? The answer is I needed that Papa group. It's really arbitrary. It works in Clip Studio, but in Krita, like logically, look, this is my group with that shadow shape, and it should only be respecting the base layer, but it doesn't work. The way you get it to work is by putting it in that Papa group I was talking about. So again, I'm going to press my add group button. It's called group 4 and it's spawned in between them. Thank you. Sure, whatever. And then I'm just going to drag and drop both of them into here again. Come on. Come on. Okay, close enough. Please. There we go. And now it works. Why? I don't know. Like I said, Krita is open source. It can do everything Clip Studio can do. It's just a little scuffed, and Clip Studio is like 10% more refined, but you have to pay $60 instead of $0. And to animate, you have to pay $300 instead of $0. So that's why we love Krita. So anyways, this is my base again. There. Group 4 is my Papa group, so that everything works. And then this is my clipping group. Like that. And then why did we do all of this? Just so that my paint layer 2 doesn't need the alpha lock, so that I can create a new layer, so that I can potentially add a gradient. Where's my airbrush? There we go. Airbrush, and then alpha lock. All right, so that's that topic. Moving on. In the spirit of doing everything backwards, that's how to do things. Now the question is what to do with that information. And I don't know about you guys, but if you're learning any new language, it doesn't even have to be one. It could be like any form of creative communication, like music or programming. They always ascribe these pillars of the foundation to learn the thing. In art, there's the 12 fundamentals of art, and it varies from person to person. Sometimes they say there's only 6, and if you consider animation as well, there's like 24 fundamentals to art, which is just different people's way of breaking down the same thing. You know, perspective, this and that. But I used to be an English teacher, and the way we taught English was just doing practice, like written work and speaking work, and then breaking down grammar, vocabulary, and phonetics. And that's a great, great way of looking at art, because it doesn't introduce like, oh, the perspective and the values and anatomy and those like 12, the list of 12 things. That's just way too daunting. So I'm going to show you this. So let's shrink my brush size. Good enough. There we go. So when I'm teaching English, we go phonetics. Oh, I prefer my... It's okay. Phonetics. Grammar. Vocab. Equals written and spoken practice. This is our goal, to do this. This is, I guess, like on this thing we'll have like English definition, ENG definition, and then the art relevance. So this is like, you know, talking from person to person. And that's exactly what we're doing with art. We're communicating from one idea and one emotion and trying to convey that on the screen. So this is our goal. What is it? In our case, we're not writing and we're not speaking, we're drawing. And the way you get better at that is actually doing it, right? But it's composed of these 3 ideas. Vocab or vocabulary is the dictionary. We don't think about every single word that we use in a sentence, but over time we do know the significance of words and we subconsciously weave them in to form sentences. In art, this would be called our visual library. So in one point in my art career, I did a copy study of what an apple looks like, right? And so now when I'm drawing like a classroom scene, you know, I can have this as a prop because I already know what it looks like. The apple isn't even on the table. The visual library is being able to draw things from reference, or so then you can use them in your imagination. That's the importance of visual library. So for me to draw like a female character with thigh highs, mini skirt, and poofy jacket with short hair and elf ears, at one point in my life, I studied those individual things and I subconsciously used them in my my visual vocabulary. Grammar, we'll skip that one because I'll get to it in a second. Phonetics is the way we pronounce vowels, syllables, and it's how we compose each individual like word in a sentence. In an artistic perspective, this would be the 12 fundamentals of, I'm not going to write them all out because I don't remember them. Perspective, volume, composition, color, value, lights and shadows, and ad nauseum. Like, if I'm not even getting into animation. And it's the little ways, I guess we could have like line art and like the little ingredients that make this apple pop. Like, I want it to be red, and I want it to have shadows, and I want the line art, the thickness. I want the thickness of the apple to be darker, around the shadow, so it looks more 3D. There you go. Those are all little seasonings that we add to this word soup. Grammar is then how we form sentences. So like, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, right? We had like a subject. Why is no color? There we go. Okay, I don't know what I did. Subject plus verb and sprinkle in some adjectives. And I guess adverbs, ADVs, right? So quick fox, quickly jumped. It's all the ways we form our sentence to make the final piece. This could be considered workflow. So in red, whatever, we're going to do like 1 gathering reference. Let's do ref of like a static pose. If you've seen like my channel, the little, what's it called? The forum, the art forum for Lunar Resonance, I kind of showcased this, where I took Luna's flat model, I broke it down, copied the style, and then the idea was then I like add a story and do the composition so it all works together. So we gather the static reference, and then we do the sketch, 3, the line art, 4, the flat colors, and then we can add gradients like what I was showing you here. 5, shadows, 6, highlights, and 7, post-processing. That's everything there. That's that idea. This is all very noisy. There's a lot of like conflicting ideas. I'm going to simplify it way, way more simpler than this. Let's hide that. Baby monkey. This is my favorite mental model. Baby monkey. Baby. We're going to have monkey on this side.
Nowhere.
Yeah. Monkey. And then baby on this side. This was based off of a meme. You know that one Discord thing where they like spoiler the image, and then it's just like you click it, and then it's like a scientific article of like neuron activation. Monkey sees action. You know what I'm referencing? Yeah.
Kinda loosely.
Yeah. Monkey see? Yeah, we're gonna put monkey. We're gonna do this in red actually. Monkey see. Monkey do. Very simple. On this side, we're gonna have baby steps. And this side, we're gonna have adult baby. It'll all make sense in just a second. Monkey see is the things that we enjoy. The reason I got into art is because, damn it, I loved Frieren and I wanted to draw elves. That's this. It's the things that caused us to start drawing in the first place. We take inspiration, and that is used as reference. And the first expression of that is to just copy what you see. So I saw Frieren and I drew Frieren, and I learned how to draw ears. Okay? And This is a great way of learning because, as you know, that feeds into our visual library. So now I can draw ears whenever I want. And apples, apparently. Baby steps now is those scary fundamentals, the 12 that all go into our final project, which is Adult Baby here. This is our own art. So like, yeah, I saw Freeran, and yeah, I learned how to draw it, but I want to tell my own story. And I want to tell a story about a little girl named Elsie, and she lives in a world like cyberpunk, and she has her own problems, and she joins a video game. There's an elf as well. Okay, that's my own project, right? And the things that I see inspired Adult Baby. The things that I've copied also are serving Adult Baby. And so then this are now where the fundamentals come into play. If I'm just doing a single illustration, what am I going to need? I'm going to need the character. I'm going to need the perspective of like the room. So this is them sitting in the room. Wah! Like this. And maybe some composition. I'm only using the fundamentals of the 24, whatever. Yeah, 24.
This is reminding me of calculus.
Oh no, please. I'm so sorry.
adding numbers or letters to math.
Perspective, composition, and form, whatever. I guess color. You can have color and value here. Color and value. That's everything.
Arrows make it look like physics.
Oh, you know it. Yeah, it's very, very complicated. I'm sorry. There we go. That's everything. Okay, hopefully I haven't lost all your interests.
I'm excited to dissect the VOD later and take it at my own pace. But right now it's like a little too fast for my brain to keep up. But don't slow down because
it's been an hour already. Oh, I am so sorry. Okay. You take the things you like. You copy the things you like. 2, create your final project. And your final project has some characters in it, so we're going to need to learn how to draw basic anatomy, basic perspective, just to serve this final project. The reason I'm saying all of this is you don't need to learn timing and spacing, the fundamentals of animation, if I'm just doing an illustration. You don't need to learn every tip about perspective because people get daunted. There's like, the 12 fundamentals of art. Like, what the hell? That's so many, right? No, I'm just saying take what you love, copy what you love so you know how to draw what you like, what inspired you in the first place. And then only you read books about perspective, only if you feel like that's going to and watch YouTube videos to service your, spin-off of the things that inspired you. That's that. Forget everything else I ever said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the same thing, just a different
point is
approach.
Have a reason to even get into art in the first place.
If you don't have a goal, it's like me trying to learn Blender, I want to learn Blender. I want to get good at Blender. It's like, it's an app. It's a tool to get you somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. So, I don't know, we can do
cool stick figures, even cooler.
Yes, let's get into actual anatomy. I'm going to go back to Clip Studio just for a second here. For the next thing, I need to sort out my brushes because I was really struggling about getting good mark making. Here, let's go back to the layers. We don't need this layer, this layer. I'm only going to be drawing on one layer, which is why I'm going to come back here because it's just cleaner. All right, right here. So let's draw some cool stick figures. I'm going to grab Luna as a model here. So here we have stage 1, gather reference, right? If I go to Discord and I show you fan art, my channel thing, what I sent at the start of the channel was really, really important as for the approach to art. If we go here, there we go. Step 1, gather reference. This is the character, the model, the reason that I'm inspired. Monkey see, monkey do. I saw Luna and I was like, hell yeah. Okay. Step 2, just copy it. Just try to find things related to it. The same sort of rendering in this case. This is from Arknights or Blue Archive. And the idea is to just get the style down in a static pose. Then on top of that, like I said, I wanted to do a final illustration where we then take the model and we give it a fancy story and all of those sort of, emotional elements to connect to the viewer, right? But one thing at a time, right? Step 1 is, all right, we have to break down this reference. So I'm going to grab, ideally, one with like a static pose where I can see most of the body. We have some clothing overlapping, but one of these should just do perfectly fine because we'll get into like, okay, the clothing later, but just how do we construct these anatomical forms in the simplest way possible? This one's good. So we're going to copy. And can I just paste here? Hey, excellent. So you guys can do this in any program you like. We can just lower the opacity to like 20%. Put this layer on top of this layer. And I'm going to be drawing on the second layer. And I'm just going to break down what forms I would use to break down the Luna model. So I'm going to grab I could either do red or black. We're going to go with red. It's a bit too small. So everyone can see the model. Let's go like that. It's thinking. Perfect. So now I can actually zoom in without the brush getting too pixelated. All right, circle for the head. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, guys. Don't panic. There we go. Some people use boxes and stuff. Like, oh, we're going to break it down like this. The issue with this is, first off, if we're doing a flat perspective like this, it's going to be flat and we're going to have trouble. I like using an oval for the chest because it simulates the rib cage. This is the center line. This is the costochondral arc here, like this. Costochondral just means costo as in costillas, as in ribs, and chondro means like cartilage, right? So then we got the clavicle here, like that. And then the waist into a lampshade. I like using a lampshade. Let's do like this. Center line into like an underwear shape. You can see like this looks like underwear. Circle for the shoulder, circle for the shoulder. Into the triceps. No, is that right? Trapezius. Neck. Cylinder.
Jesse out here practicing the vocab words.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've gone over my anatomy. Like 3 years ago, I was examined on like.
It's good you're like studying while teaching art at the same time. It's cool.
This is the sternum right here. It's a very fun bone. Looks something like that, and then like that. It looks like a little tie, like a little bow tie or whatever men wear. Okay, and then the pectoralis muscle, which joins to the deltoid here. Cylinder for the leg, like that. Another cylinder for this one here. Whoopa. And then I just kind of want to get this, like this is how I do things. I do not expect you guys to need to do this just yet. I'll show you what actual books recommend you to start out with. And then we could do little boxes for the feet. like a little box here and box here. The reason I'm leaving big spaces is because this is technically where joints are. And then, you know, toes we can add at the end. For the face, you can do this to yourself right now. If you open your fingers, you know, if I have, this is my pointer finger right here, and then my thumb, like that, right? If you open this space of your hand, you can put your pointer finger underneath your nose, like this, and this is your chin right here. If you copy this distance to the base of your chin, and so this, here we have our smile, right? The base of our nose to the base of our chin, and we just put our thumb where our finger is, and we see how high this finger gets. And I bet you it's going to go right damn close to your eyebrow line. And then if you do that one more time, you put we started thumb to the chin, and then now thumb to the base of the nose, and we got our, you know, pointer finger this high, and we do the exact same thing. Put our thumb right here, and then we have the hairline to the top of the head.
Oh my gosh, it's working.
Yeah. So what I'm describing here is some thirds. This distance is pretty much the same as this distance, is pretty much the same as this distance here. So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Those are some quick anime proportions for you. The mouth sits somewhere in between there. The eyes sit somewhere in between there. This is our brow line, the glabellar arc. And then this is technically our hairline, where all of the hair then comes down from. This is where it's technically all spawning from. So maybe I'll make it look pretty real quick. So again, I kind of know where all of these sit. Ideally, we could look at like a bald person to actually see where his eyebrows are arcing. So like this person's eyebrows, it's not a unibrow, so technically there's nothing in here, but I'm extrapolating, I'm drawing through. And we have this eyebrow here, and this eyebrow here. And then 1/3 down gets us to the base of the nose. Now I know my anatomy, and I know that underneath the maxillary bone, we can follow the zygomatic arc right here. Go like that. A great way of thinking about this is if you've ever seen the Cars movie. This is another one that you would have never expected.
Mm-hmm.
This is the windshield up here, and this is the hood of the car. Let's see if I have a picture of that. I know I do. Please.
How dare you not have a Cars PNG at the ready?
I know. Please forgive me. Here we go. This is the idea.
I'll think about it.
The key. We have the car windshield, and the eyebrows are up here at the top of the windshield. This is a bend that's happening into the cheekbones, and we take that shape, and then, you know, here it's isolated in a 3/4 perspective, whatever. This is our eyebrow line again, and then the nose, and then this is our jawbone, right? That's what that's trying to show. And then we go here, and this is just a fancy way of illustrating that. So here we have, this is that face shape again. This is that eyebrow shape right there, and this is the zygomatic arc. And again, it's like 1/3 to get to here, from the chin to the base of the nose, another third to get from the base of the nose to the top of the eyebrows, and then another third to go from the base of the eyebrows to like the hairline. And then I did some breakdowns of that. So this is Ethan Becker's original idea, definitely. And here he had some reference. Then I just grabbed some pictures off of Pinterest, and I just followed that exact thing. And you can see like Iron Man was a great example of looking at that, where we have, this is the arc of the brow, the glabellar arc. And then we're just going to create this hypothetical, you know, center line into the zygomatic arc. And that's going to instantly point us to which direction the face is looking, according to like that Cars idea. All right. There, same thing. Was there anything else, or is that just it? That looks like it. It's just more of the same. Da-da, da-da, da-da. Nice. Cool. Thank you. Goodbye. Ears sit somewhere in between the eyebrows and the nose. So you can see that they're doing that. Perfect. Eyes we'll get into. Hairline here. And that's generally how I would construct the face. So again, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And depending on whether the character is a male or a chibi anime girl, they will wildly change. So this will no longer become a third. We don't want like a big jaw for like a chibi character. It'll be like, you know, like wah, and big eyes, you know, and then the eyebrows will be here.
Yeah, I think I made my jaw a bit smaller to make it cuter.
Yeah, I can see that. And then we have a lot of space right here. And then we don't really know where the hairline begins. Here you can see the same thing. The nose would be like right here. So then this would be like a tiny little space, big to see the eyes, and then we don't really care about where the hairline is. This is the priority. We can have the neck here. Whereas like a male character, can I draw males? That's a good question. I know I tried once and I severely regretted it. I think it's like that. Hell yeah. Whatever. Blocky shapes.
Can I draw males? That's one hell of a line.
I mean, I ought to. I'm part of that demographic. My family. My entire gender will never accept me ever again. I'll be ostracized for the rest of my life. He's going to have a hook nose. This is his little smile here. Yeah, whatever. So then this is that arc here. It goes into the ear. Sigmatic. Yeah, this is a really bad drawing. It doesn't matter. Big jaw. Smaller eyebrow, you know, from the base of the nose to the eyebrows. And then whatever, forehead. We don't really know where the hair begins. Could be there. Just to illustrate the difference between the two here. So I'm going to open a book. I highly recommend you guys read books. This is a good one. T.B. Choi. I love that artist. Highly recommend them. And, you know, it'll talk about line quality, their idea of what fundamentals should be. This is what good line art should look like, where we have some like ambient occlusion, shadows, thicker line art, and thinner line art according to where shadows would be placed. Sketches can be like this if it's really efficient and stuff, but ideally we want to have simple, clear lines. We got some anatomy. This is their, you know, shapes that they construct with. And what I really like about them is all you have to learn how to draw is a cylinder and a box. To begin with, this is amazing. This would be, if you guys can like learn how to draw like volumetric shapes in perspective, then what you do is you take this box and then you can carve out of it the shape of the rib cage. Take the cylinder, it's already warped here. Like you see the cylinder is like parallel, the lines, it's like equally sized, whereas the forearm here has like a thicker base and then a thinner wrist. So he's already warping the cylinder. Here we have that like underwear shape again. And we can see the thighs here, heavily warped thigh shape, even though they technically are cylinders. And then, you know, once you're good enough and you kind of already understand these volumes, then you start drawing with more organic shape language. But to begin with, you can see, if we go back to the Clip Studio illustration here, I'm in between the two of them. I have, you know, the simple cylinder right here. It's got slight taper because the thighs naturally do, but I still understand that it has volume, it has another side, and I could just as easily have done it a more traditional way of like illustrating a cylinder like this. If I can draw a straight line is the question. There we go, and there we go. And then we just pick which side is dominant. So are we looking into the cylinder or are we looking into the cylinder from this direction? If I choose like na, okay, sure. What What is going on? Perfect. So, I'm just going to erase this side, and then we will be seeing into, the base of the cylinder, and then we can do the same thing here. There we go. And then this time we can see into this one, but we won't be seeing the back half of this hoop, if that makes sense. So now we can only see right here. This is just following the same pattern. And then this is what we can actually see into. So like visually, this is above our head. Like we're looking up at this arc. We can see into both of these, which is what I did here. And then we're looking down and we can't see the back half of this, arc here. So that means we're thinking about perspective when we're drawing these cylinders. And you can see I'm doing the same thing here. Like we can see that we can look into the wrist, but we can't really see much information here nor here in this cylinder. Just using basic shapes like the shape for the rib cage, a lampshade. I don't know if you guys can see it too well, but like, yeah, sure. This is my rib cage, and that's the costochondral arc. This is just the center into the shape of the shoulders, right? So it's got this like rice cake shape. It's kind of what people describe the rib cage to be. And then all of this jazz here is like the shoulders, the serratus anterior, the pectoralis. The pectoralis would be up here. And then a lampshade. So again, remember how to draw a cylinder? It was like this, and then we pick which side of the curve is going to be seen. So we're not going to see this back curve. We're just going to see what's in front, right? So that's a cylinder, but we don't want that. We want it to be wider at the base, just like the legs. Wider at the base, thinner at the end. So that's how we're going to draw this lampshade. So this is going to be the entrance, where the torso is going to connect to. And then I'm going to draw a really big oval here. And then it's just going to connect like that. And then I'm going to choose, are we looking into here and we're not going to see this? Or are we looking into this and we're not going to see, this back curve here? So I choose this one. So this is going to be my center line, and I'm going to erase this away. Just like that. So now it looks like a lampshade. So like this, and I can draw the lampshade like as you would see it on your desk or whatever. This is where maybe we have a cable and like a light switch into an outlet, right? And we just put underwear on the lampshade. We'd like divide it in half like this, following that curvature of this arc, and this arc. And then we just do that. There we go. So that's how you create a torso out of a lampshade. I bet you didn't expect that one. And then the cylinders for the legs. Like that. And then we can get into the rest of the whatever. So this is like more complicated anatomy. Start out with just simple shapes. So let's simplify everything. Let's create more canvas. Edit, canvas size, drag this to the left. Again, I'm not using Krita just because I'm Foster on Clip Studio. But don't worry, you can definitely just draw on the canvas the way I am on Krita. I can promise you that. There we go. So we're back here. Let's just get it black and go back to this layer. So this is where we want to get to, right? But for the time being, I learned how to draw a box because I went to the website drawabox.com. I love this one. This is a great way of learning perspective. And I learned how to draw Sure. This box right here. And
I
we
will
can
be back. Carry on though. Please.
absolutely, yeah. We can see this is a box, right? And then we can add another one for the hips. Like this, right? And it's a good practice to draw the hidden side. And then later on, because this is just still the sketch, right? Later on, we can, erase this away and erase this away. So now we know what sort of faces we're looking at, right? So this is our front face, and this is another front face. And then we can draw, a circle here, a sphere here to indicate where the joints are for our cylinders. So I'm going to add like a cylinder. Maybe we're looking into this one, and then it's turning away from us, like that. So that's the one arm, leading away. It's a bit long, so I'm contemplating changing it like that. And then I'll draw the forearm here. There we go. And then we'll do like another one here. And it's getting like crazy foreshortening. And then we'll do the second cylinder like here-ish. There we go. The reason I'm doing this is because this represents the elbow now. I know it looks super chaotic. Let's see if I can clean it up a little. We would be looking into this cylinder here. So don't mind the noise behind it. This is just a cylinder here, and these are two cylinders here. And then same thing for the legs, right? Maybe we have, some circles to simulate, like the deltoids here, the hip bones. And then we're going to have the cylinders that are going to come out like that. And then another one like that. There. And of course, we're not going to see into this one as much. And then the knee. So this is the knee here. Into another cylinder, into the foot. All I'm doing is drawing with just basic geometrical shapes. And we can see another foot shape, whatever. Looks a bit strange, but that's because I don't have any reference. And ideally, you'd have like a photograph of either yourself or... So yeah, we're actually going to write that down. Ref of a photo. Because it's really hard to construct poses that look good from imagination. So we take a photograph, we break it down into simple geometric shapes according to the perspective, and then on top of that, we add the anatomy, and then on top of that, we add the character design. And then once we have this very pretty character design, we can then change the pose and give it a background and give it a story and give it an illustration. I'll show you what that looks like on pencil and paper. Let's go and save this. Whatever, yeah, we're going to name it 25 there. I don't think I did that correctly. All good. So I should be wrapping up by now. So for my last thing, I'm just going to show you what this looks like in practice. On pencil and paper, literally not even considering Krita. Reference own art, there we go. And we're going to go to... This one could have some good stuff in it. But I feel like I wasn't... Yeah, I wasn't. Traditional art. This one should have some. It does! This is exactly... I like it when I find things first try. That feels good, right? Okay. This is my final illustration. Right here, we're going to pick this one. Of course, it opens in a new window. There we go. So we have this cool Elsie character with the fox gas mask and this crazy pose. She's sitting on a bridge and she has these cool boots. I did not just like raw dog this. I had a character design. I had the pose in mind. I have her personality, her story, the reason why she's on this bridge. There's so much stuff that happens before the final illustration that people do not see. And what happens is what beginners do is they just try to jump right into this. Try to do the pose on top of the character design, on top of the story from scratch. From this blank canvas to this drawing, which is not what happens in reality. In reality, I have a static model of how I wanted to construct the character. And then on top of that, I put her character design on. So, yeah, sure. Here we go. The exact same thing I was showing you before. Except I have these circles on the side here to represent how big the entire head is. So I have this like little circle. This bigger circle is just like from the chin to the top of the head. And so that way I can predict how many proportions, how many heads tall is this character. And, you know, chibi characters, literally like their head would fit, you know, eyes, mouth, and their feet would be right here. They would only be 2 heads tall. You know, some characters might be 3. A lot of characters are 6. And then more realistic proportions, they're like towards 8 or 9 heads tall. So where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So we see like 1 head, 2 head, 3 head, 4 heads to get to the waist and the crotch. And then it's another 4 to get down to the feet. So 4 plus 4 is 8 heads tall. And that's how tall this character is. Again, just using cylinders, lampshades, underwear shape, rib cage, like that. And on top of this, I layered another piece of paper, and the ink kind of like showed through because this is really thin paper. I then layered on my character design. So you can see it's like loose fitting clothing, some bandages, some boots, and this katana in the back, right? Then what I do is I have the way I construct my character. I have the character design, and then I put this design to a pose. And the way I do the pose is this, but just different, you know, cylinder moving towards us, and we just rig the simple construction. I am apparently very zoomed in here. Do I have a second image of that pose? Apparently not. That's disappointing. Well, anyways, so you can see I have those simple shapes. You know, we have this box for the hips, the oval that I was showing you for the rib cage, simple cylinders, and that would be the equivalent of this one, you know? So again, we have our pose, we put the character design on top. Come on. We have our pose here. Now we put the character design on top. And then we get this one. Moving along. Where was it? Okay. So then the way I got to this one, I don't know why I don't have everything, but same idea. We have, where did it go? I lost everything. Nice. So confused. There we go. We have the sketch here of the construction of how I wanted them to be posed, and I applied the character design on top. And here I'm using just layers of paper. You can use like a window. I know I did that. That hurt my back for a while though. But you can just like put a piece of paper against a window. Like let's say it was this piece of paper. And then I put it like a blank A4 on top of the sketch. And then I was able to, you know, use those guidelines to overlay the character design on top. There's also like animation light boxes. You don't have to do that. I do have like a window from a house that's just like in my room. And so, you know, I have like, this is the window frame, right? And then I have like a flashlight or whatever. Yeah, this is the flashlight, like, you know, through the window. And then I had like my A4 piece of paper here with my sketch on it. And then I layered a blank piece of A4 to then do the line art on. And that's how I was like following these digital art tutorials traditionally. And I was using, you know, this was my sketch here, sketch, and this is my line art here. So we're taking that idea, and we have the luxury of being able to use layers to do that ourselves. I believe that is everything I wanted to talk to about construction of how we're going to get it. And then we put the character design on top. And then we take this construction, we put it to a pose. And then again, like we had this one and we applied the character design on top, we have a new pose and we put the character design on top. And you can see I did that again here, where it's like this sketch and then put the character design on top. Let's see. I guess this is a more exaggerated pose. And then you can see I did it again here, where it's now a new piece of paper with the line art and the clothing on top.
Mm-hmm.
Just to summarize this entire thing in one image, baby monkey. We had a pose that we really liked, or a character design that we really liked. We, you know, then broke it down into, you know, simple shapes. Monkey do. Like, you know, cylinders, boxes, like this. And apparently lampshades. There we go. To then, you know, with the combination of like perspective and anatomy and anything relevant to our final illustration, we can then make our final project adult baby. This is our own art. It goes here. And it's, again, the combination of reference that we then break down into simple shapes and anatomy and apply the character design on top. And then we put it to a pose. Construction, construction / sketch into line art and character design, line art / character design. And then we give it the pose plus story information and the background. And that's how we get our final illustrated piece. We go back to Discord. that did not work. Same thing happening here. Reference. I broke down, technically the sketch and the character design and the different styles. And then with the help of a pose and a story, we then create our final illustration. And that's kind of what I'll be working on to do my final piece as well. All right, everyone. That's all I had to share. Thank you so much for listening. Fill out.
Thank you.
Hopefully, you can use this model for yourself and analyze what are the things that you really like seeing and break those down. Try to copy them. And then read some books, watch some YouTube videos on how to, draw boxes, like drawbox.com. That's a great way of learning how to draw these volumes so that we can draw the poses. And then all of these will then allow us to make our own project right here.